Yes guys, welcome to a brand new video. My name is Cohnan, and what if I told you that in the next 4 months you could be in better shape than 95% of the entire population? Sounds too good to be true, but it is not, because I've laid out a step-by-step guides that you can follow as soon as you're done watching this video, with no fat diets, no crazy workouts, just the basic fundamentals that actually work. I'll show you how to transform your body, your mindset, and your life in the next 4 months. So without any further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Tip number 1 is to focus mainly on nutrient-dense foods. 80 to 90% of your total caloric intake should come from these single ingredient foods that are super nutrient dense as well. Think of like your lean meats, your fruits, your veggies, your whole grains, and also some of your healthy fats as well. Processed foods, there's definitely a time and place for them, but if you're strictly on a deadline of in the next 4 months, you want to get into the best shape possible, I would advise you to try to stay away from as much processed foods as possible. Not because they're evil or they're the devil in any way, shape, or form. The only issue there is that because most of these processed foods are hyper palatable, which means that they're super tasty and therefore also super easy to eat, right? Because whenever you ask your friends, hey, why did you binge on your diet? 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you, oh, I ate pizza, I ate burgers, I ate fries, whatever, right? Because as soon as you have one bite of ice cream, one piece of pizza, one piece of burger, whatever, it triggers a response in your body for most people to want you to eat even more of that, right? Because it's so tasty, even the texture in your mouth, right? I'm thinking of like a chocolate chip cookie that's like super gooey, super soft, and then also it's crunchy with those chocolate chips. I am making myself hungry right now, right? If you were to put a cookie in front of me right now, I would more than likely eat more than one cookie, right? Whereas if you focus mainly on whole natural single ingredient foods, right? Again, those fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lead source of protein, they're not really that addictive. And it's like as soon as you're done eating a meal, like a salad or like chicken and rice, for example, you're not really going to be craving anymore, right? It's like it kind of hits a spot. You feel good, you feel satiated, you feel energized, and more importantly, you don't actually feel like a crash afterwards. So it's like a win-win situation, right? And here's the cool part. I want you guys to really pay attention to this. In the first couple, I would say, days and weeks of you shifting your diet towards more of these healthier type of foods, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's gonna suck, especially if you're coming from a background where you're used to eating junk food all the time. Yeah, it will take some time to get used to. However, here's what's so cool about this: your body and your brain will start to crave the foods that you eat more often. So if you want to start craving more fruits, start craving more vegetables, start craving more protein, guess what you should start doing more of? Eat more of those foods. Go through the suck in the first couple of weeks of that. Depending on the person, maybe 1 week, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, whatever it may take. But over time, you'll start to realize that, hang on a minute, I'm hungry right now, and I'm not really craving any sweet food anymore. I'm actually craving like a nice little bowl of oatmeal right now with some fruit on top. I'm actually craving some chicken breast right now. It is really funny how your brain works like that, because people used to ask me like, hey, Conan, how do you stay so disciplined? How do you stay so like healthy? Like, for example, if I go to a party and I see like a salad and a pizza, I automatically just kind of go for the salad, for example. This isn't me to brag. I'm just stating the facts here. And people will look at me and just say like, hey, Conan, why are you so disciplined? I'm like, and I have to think about it at first, because like I didn't really have an answer for that, because like I'm like, surely I do not have more discipline than you. Like I am just like you. I'm a regular human being. Surely I do not have any more willpower than you. And so I thought about it. That I did some research, and then I actually found this article that literally had study after study saying that if you eat more of those healthy foods, you will start to crave more of those healthy foods, right? So it's really, really powerful. So if you want to change your habits, change your cravings, change your diet. Tip number 2 is to try to keep your meals as simple as possible. Does that sound boring? Maybe, but it is an underrated hack for staying lean, because when you eat the same meals every single day, you avoid, and this is so important, guys, you avoid the decision fatigue and keep things simple. If you wake up every single morning trying to figure out, on top of like your working schedule, your family priorities, your work priorities, all this stuff, what you're going to be having for breakfast, I mean, that should not even be on the list of concerns that you should be having, right? Your breakfast and your lunches especially, and even like the snacks of the day, those should be on autopilots. Like you should not even be thinking twice about what you should be eating as soon as you wake up, because again, that adds decision fatigue to your day to day. And we wake up every single morning with a finite amount of decisions that we could be making productively. And if we're using all of kind of like that brain energy towards thinking about what I should be putting into my mouth for breakfast, I think that is personally a big waste of time. So as soon as you're starting this journey, automate your breakfast. Either prepared the night before. It could be like overnight oats, or at least just like have the same thing every single morning, whether it's like some eggs or some oatmeal or a protein shake, whatever it is. Automate it if you can, delegate it if you can, systemize it if you can. Just make sure that you don't think about it, because again, this will take so much stress away from this, and you can actually allocate your brain power and your brain focus towards more important tasks during the day, like making more money, being more productive, being there for your family, showing up for your friends, all that stuff. Because I used to be there where I wake up every single morning, I'm like, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to eat for dinner? And it's like, these are decisions that we really should not be having to make on a daily basis. Number 3, lift weights 2 to 4 times a week. This should be a non-negotiable. Lifting weights isn't just about getting bigger and stronger muscles. It's also about building strength and shaping your body. Aim for 2 to 4 sessions per week, focusing on progressive overload. That just means that you're lifting heavier and doing a couple more reps each time, right? So if you did 100 pounds last week on a given exercise, try to do 105 pounds the next week. Or if you did 10 reps, try to go for 11 reps, right? So either add more weight and or add more reps, or do a combination of both if you feel really, really strong. If you're lifting 2 to 4 times a week, I would recommend following a full body split where you can still hit each muscle group 2 times per week. Do not, and I repeat, do not follow a bro split, because it's been shown scientifically, study after study, that training each muscle group 2 times per week is far superior than training each muscle once per week. So you don't have to spend hours in the gym 6 days a week. You can simply get away with just doing 2 workouts per week, doing 2 full body sessions on like a Monday and a Thursday, and you'll see awesome results. Here is another point. Protein is your friend. Aim for around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to help build and retain your muscle mass. Here's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. If you have a hard time hitting your protein goals, so let's say you're 200 pounds right now, your goal is to eat around 200 grams of protein, make sure that in every meal that you eat, so let's say you want to eat 4 meals per day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a bedtime snack, make sure that in every meal that you eat, you have a high quality source of protein in that. Protein is crucial for getting lean and also staying strong. Plus, it's a great appetite suppressant, meaning that it takes a bit longer for your body to fully break down and digest compared to carbs and fats. And so what you will notice by simply adding more protein into your diets, that you're not only going to be getting rid of most of your sugary cravings, but you're also going to be just a lot more satisfied throughout the day as well, which is awesome. Especially if you have a big appetite like myself. I enjoy eating a lot of food, and by me keeping my protein intake nice and high, I can keep my calories to like a good level that is healthy for me, and without having to like overdo it. Because without protein, like I'd be eating like crazy. I can eat unlimited carbs. I can eat a lot of fats too, but because of that protein, it kind of slows down the digestion, and I actually feel super, super good and satiated throughout the day as well. So going back to the example, if your goal is to eat 200 grams of protein and you want to eat 4 meals per day, simply divide 200 by 4, and that should give you around 40 grams of protein that you should striving to hit within every meal. So 50 grams of protein for breakfast, 50 grams for lunch, 50 grams for dinner, and then 50 grams as a snack. Super easy rule of thumb to keep in mind. Focus on habits, not just weights. Here's a mindset shift for you. Don't focus on losing weight, because I see a lot of people make this mistake where they go on a weight loss journey and the first thing they focus on is, how can I lose this weight as fast as I can? But instead, I want you to reframe your mindset, and instead of being so goal-oriented, be more process-oriented. So focus on creating the habits necessary in order for you to get the results that you're looking for. If you want to lose 20 pounds, ask yourself this question. Instead of focusing on losing the 20 pounds, ask yourself, well, what type of person do I have to become in order to lose the 20 pounds, or in order for me to be 20 pounds lighter, right? Weight loss is just the outcome of building the healthy habits and the healthy lifestyle. You want to become the person who's always in shape and not just focus on the goal. Because if you just focus on the goal, you do not become the person that can actually sustain that goal as well. So this is a massive thing that I want you to start focusing on right now before you start this journey. Instead of thinking about the goal, think about the process. Next up is master your meals. Similar to what I said for like delegating or automating your breakfast, I need you to eat on a proper eating schedule. This trains your hunger and circadian rhythms. And when it comes to snacking, do not snack and try to drink water at first, because a lot of the time you're just thirsty and you're not hungry, because oftentimes we mistake hunger for dehydration. So if you notice that, let's say in the afternoon or mid-morning, that you're typically wanting to snack, do not do that, especially if you haven't drinking water before that. I want you to drink 2 cups of water beforehand. And what you will notice is that, hey, hang on a minute. I'm actually not even that hungry anymore. I was actually just really dehydrated. So make sure that at all times you have water on you. And especially before eating anything, drink 2 cups of water first. And so replace that snack with water, and you'll feel a lot more full, a lot more energized, and a lot more focused as well. Of course, if you're still hungry, then go ahead and have that snack. But I just don't want you to aimlessly snack throughout the day, because a lot of people say like, oh, like I'm trying to live this healthy lifestyle, but I'm not losing any weight. It's like, well, are you keeping track of all your meals? You're like, yeah, I do. It's like, okay, well, what about the snacks that you're having throughout the day? And they're like, oh, the snacks, right? Because a lot of people, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that they forget that they snack, but because it's like not on like a set schedule and it's kind of like random, a lot of people kind of like forget that they had that handful of peanuts at work, or the couple handful of chips for dinner time or whatever, right? A lot of people just don't take that into account, but like you got to remember that those also still have calories and they can really easily sneak up on you. I will even go as far as to say that's the condiments that you're using for your meals, like the ketchup, your mayonnaise, your barbecue sauces, all that stuff. Sure, maybe per serving it's only 20 calories, but you have a couple of servings of that per day. It's like 3 to 4 tablespoons of ketchup with your chicken and rice meal. That's already like 60 to 80 calories in that meal alone, right? If you do that 4 times a day, that could be easily 200 to 300 calories on top of your regular caloric intake, and that can definitely get you out of a deficit and into either your maintenance calories and or even a surplus, which is not what you want. Here's a big thing that you guys probably hear all the time, but surround yourself with success. If you want to get fitter, find a group of fit friends. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm sure you have heard this numerous times before, but yet we don't really do this, right? Because if I were to see the people you hang around the most with, it's like, well, are they in shape? Are they like on their own self-improvement journey? I mean, hopefully, right? Because if they're just playing video games all day, they're eating junk food all the time, they beg you to go out to the parties every single weekend, they make you order junk food all the time. It's like, do they really have your best interest in mind? And are they really helping you reach your goals faster? Probably not, right? And so if possible, find a partner who shares your health goals. If not, be the example for your family and friends. And now this, I would say the latter portion here is going to be a lot more difficult, because there's this thing called, an analogy I like to use is crabs in a bucket, where if you try to be this person to set the example for your friends and family, I mean, yes, it sounds good on paper, but a lot of times it's a lot harder. Like it's a lot easier said than done, essentially, because a lot of people will try to drag you down to their level as opposed to leveling up to their level. So let's say, for example, I am around a group of 4 people who are just, lack for a better term, losers. If I try to level up my life, guess what they're subconsciously going to want to do? Just make themselves feel better. They're going to say, oh, you're eating healthy again. Like, oh, you're skipping our party because you want to go to the gym. It's like, oh, you're going to bed early. Like, oh, you're so lame. You're such a loser. All this stuff. They will say that subconsciously to make themselves feel better, right? 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be like, oh my goodness, this guy, like it's so inspirational. It's so motivational. Like, I want to be more like you. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be like that, right? So what I would advise you to do, and is also what I did for myself personally, is I actually like gravitated slowly but surely away from my friend group. And I was honestly like, I was kind of like a loner for the first couple of years of me being on this health and fitness journey, right? And then slowly but surely, as I got into better shape, as I started eating healthier, I started to almost like attract the people who also lived similar lifestyles towards me. And now I find myself in a situation where I have a really good, solid group of friends that we share our same interest. And that was because I kind of went through like my lonely phase, which I think Alex Hormozi talks a lot about, where you're kind of in this middle phase where you're trying to separate yourself from your old friends, but then you're still not good enough to kind of like get those newer, higher quality of friends, right? So you're kind of stuck in this middle where it's like you're kind of like lonely doing your own thing, right? And I think a lot of people are going to have to put themselves through that situation in order to attract the type of people that you really want in your life, right? Because let's say, and again, like I think about this really like black and white. If I wanted to be friends with Elon Musk, he's not going to be friends with me, right? Because I don't have the business experience, and even like we wouldn't really be able to talk about a lot of things in common, right? So I'm going to have to level myself up in order for myself to attract the type of person that I want to associate myself with, right? Same thing with like a relationship. If you want to date like a supermodel, you yourself should also probably be in really good shape. You should probably have a lot of status, because if you're just some loser that works at McDonald's, that supermodel probably isn't going to want to date you, right? That's the way I like to look at it personally, and at least it's worked for me, but I think it makes the most amount of sense to look at it from that perspective. Now let's talk about the thing that a lot of people tend to overlook, and that is sleep. Sleep like a pro. Sleep is the ultimate recovery tool, and this is a method that I use personally along with all the clients that we work with, and it is called the 3-2-1 method. I found this online, but it's definitely worth considering if you have a hard time falling asleep each night, which a lot of people do. So 3 hours prior to bed, no food. 2 hours prior to bed, no liquids. And then 1 hour prior to bed, no screen time. If you follow these rules, 3-2-1 method, you'll notice that you'll fall asleep a lot faster, you'll feel a lot more recovered, and you're going to have a lot more energy the really next day. And the reason why we're doing this 3-2-1 method is because if you're eating a big meal right before bed, and again, this could depend person to person, but if you're eating a big meal right before bed, that could definitely kind of like just impact your sleep, because you're still digesting all the food, and it can make you really uncomfortable. Like I can definitely think of a couple of times when I've done that, and I just had the worst sleeps ever. And not only that, like I woke up the next morning and I felt so bloated, so lethargic, and I felt like I had a really just poor sleep, right? So if you can, try to have like your dinner at least like 3 hours before. So that's 3 hours prior, you're not going to be feeling super bloated. Same thing with liquids. If you have a gallon of water right before bed, you're going to wake up the really or you're going to probably wake up in the middle of the night, like peeing, right? And that could disrupt your sleeping pattern and your circadian rhythm, and that is not a fun situation to be in. I used to wake up in the middle of the night all the time because I had to go to the bathroom so badly. But ever since I started using this method, once I fall asleep, I typically don't wake up in the middle of the night, which is an absolute game changer for me because it doesn't disrupt my sleeping cycle. And then I just wake up feeling super refreshed. And then the last point here is try to avoid any screen, any blue light for that matter, 1 hour before bed. Because essentially, like, we want to make sure that we wind down before bed, and if we have like this screen in front of us, whether it's from a TV or from our phone as well, your body, your circadian rhythm is going to think that, oh, it's still daytime, it's still the morning, right? Which means like, oh, we should still be awake. But we want to do the opposite, right? We want to dim the lights, we want to be in a dark room, so your body can actually release a hormone in your body called melatonin, which actually helps you fall asleep a lot faster and a lot better as well. So definitely use this 3-2-1 methods to optimize your sleeping patterns. Now let's talk about emotional mastery. Learn how to manage your emotions without turning to food, alcohol, and or drugs. Most people, 9 out of 10 times people do this. Typically it's food, right? Whenever we find ourselves in like a stressed or panicked situation, we revert to food. And that is because food is comforting. Food gives us comfort, and I totally get it. It's one of these things where I personally never really got into that. So it's hard for me to relate, but I know a lot of people, even people that we used to work with, used to deal with this exact situation. So what I want you to try to figure out here is try to get to the root cause of why you stress eat and overindulge. Healing that part of yourself will help you stay on track. And then also figure out like what makes you want to eat those types of foods, like what kind of response in your body, like what stressors make you want to like revert to that food, right? Because if you can get to the root cause of your stressors, you can always try to be a bit more proactive instead of being reactive, and to like almost like stop that situation from happening in the first place. Because if you know that, okay, every time I do this thing, it causes me stress, which therefore leads me to eat a bunch of junk food or eat a pound of ice cream. It's like, okay, well, if we can get to the root cause of this and say, okay, this thing causes me stress, you can try to be a bit more proactive and say, okay, how can I stop this stressor from happening in the first place so that I don't end up binging on my diet, right? So almost like reverse engineering the situation from happening in the first place. I think that will make a huge, huge difference towards you not binging on your diet. So 100% think about that. Now, next up, I want you guys to think more long-term. So stop rushing the process. You're not in a race, and I know the title of this video is called Get Into the Best Shape Possible in 4 months, but think more long-term, because a lot of people set deadlines to their weight loss goals and say, okay, in the next 3 months, my goal is to achieve X result. But then a lot of people don't think about, okay, what happens after the 3-month mark or the 90-day mark? Because if you set a deadline to that, more than likely, after that deadline is done, you're just going to go back to your old habits again, and you're more than likely going to gain all the weight back again. Because going back to what I said earlier, getting fit is a long-term investment in yourself. It's not about getting a six-pack overnight, but avoiding preventable diseases and living a healthy, active lifestyle. So think long-term when it comes to this, because the entire point of fitness is not just to get fit for an arbitrary amount of time, then go back to old habits again. At least I hope not. The entire point of fitness is to get fit, but then to stay fit, right? The three core pillars in life: health, wealth, and relationships. We want to ensure that we maintain these things for as long as we possibly can, and not just like do one of these things, for example, like, okay, once I'm healthy, once I'm fit, check it out the list and I can move on to the other things in life. Sure, you can put other things like on maintenance mode as you kind of work towards other priorities in life. I totally get it, but completely neglecting one of these three things is not going to be a good idea, because we need all these three things: so health, wealth, and relationships. And if we neglect one of these things, you're not going to be living an optimal life that you're going to be feeling really fulfilled with. Next up is, this is a massive thing, especially with social media nowadays, is stop comparing yourself to other people. And I know it's easier said than done with some of these other tips. Like, I totally get it. I myself personally do this all the time. Obviously, like myself, putting myself on the internet, and also being surrounded by all my friends now, right, who are living this active, healthy lifestyle. Like, I see them all the time, not just on social media and in person, and subconsciously I may start to like look at myself and then look at them and say, okay, how can I do better? How can I do this? Blah, 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 all this stuff. But you really don't need to compare your body to anyone else's, because at the end of the day, we all have different builds, different genetics, and also different journeys, because what may be my goal, right, may not be someone else's goal. And so if I were to compare myself to a pro bodybuilder, for example, it's like my goal isn't even to be a pro bodybuilder, right? So it's like, it doesn't even make sense for me to compare myself to them. Whereas what I do actually do, and again, I don't really recommend most people to do this, but I'm a really competitive person, and so I do tend to do this from time to time. Is I'll look at my current goals, and then I'll look at someone else who also has my current goals. Again, it's not going to be like super specific all the time, but let's say I am currently training for a marathon, and I see someone else also training for a marathon. It's like, okay, well, what is their time, and then how does my time compare to them, right? I definitely like to look at people who are doing slightly better than me, so I have like something to like look towards in terms of like, okay, this is like the number to beat, for example. But usually, like, again, for most people, it's not the best idea to do that, because that can kind of like get in your head, and then you start to feel bad about yourself, and it kind of spirals down towards a kind of like a pity situation, right? So if you can't just focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the only person you should be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday, right? I know it's a cliche, but that is the only person that really, really matters, right? Because it has, like, you have the most amount of context on that person. You know exactly what their goals are. You know exactly what they are capable of. So that is 100% what I would recommend you guys to do. And then last point here, I believe this is the last one here, is to appreciate your body. Be grateful for what your body can do, and it's constantly working to keep you alive. So when you transform your body, you're transforming your life. Like, one of the greatest things that you could do for yourself is by respecting your body, because if you actually think about what you put your body through when you're not exercising, when you're eating junk food, when you're just neglecting your health in general, like, you're pretty much putting your body through a beating, right? But it's like, how can we expect to make our body look a certain way or act a certain way, right? In terms of like being able to run, to sprint, to lift X amount of weights, to just function, right? When we're feeding it with like crap, but we're not sleeping properly, but we're not resting properly, when we're not fueling our body properly, but we're not exercising properly, right? So it's like, show yourself some respect and like do the thing that is like good for you, right? Because why do you expect, like, if you're sick all the time, it's like, well, yeah, if you're eating junk food all the time, if you're neglecting your health, like, no surprise that you're getting sick all the time, because your body's literally fighting against, like, it's almost like you're punishing yourself. So do yourselves a favor and live this healthy, optimal lifestyle to ensure that you're living the best quality life that you could possibly experience, right? I know that's more of a deeper take on this, but think about it that way. It's like, by me living this sedentary, unhealthy lifestyle, am I doing myself any favor? No, you're not, and you know that, right? But a lot of people just like tend to like not even think about it. So if you want to fast track your results, and if you're ready to finally level up and reach your fitness goals a whole lot faster, you can go ahead and click the link to book a free consultation with us, a free consultation call with us today. so we can see how we can help you transform your body and your life in the next 4 months. So do not wait. Your future self will thank you for it. If you guys have any questions regarding anything that we just talked about, please drop them in the comments down below, and I'll see y'all soon.